I'd like to welcome a seasoned pan player, a Panorama Champion player with BP Renegades, a freshwater Trini, and my good friend Andy Clayton. Andy, how are you doing?
Great, Harry. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks so much for agreeing to come and do this.
Oh, I'm
I
so
think we're
excited.
going to have some fun with it.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, for the benefit of our viewers, you may never have heard of Andy Clayton, but for many pan players venturing to Trinidad and Tobago Panorama for the first time, I think Andy's experience could serve to prepare you for what to expect. So, Andy, give us a little background about your experience with Pan, how you got connected, and just tell us how you became a Pan man.
Sure, sure. Yeah, it's kind of a weird long journey. So yeah, so I kind of growing up, I had always had a good ear and kind of a good. I always liked music, so I started out on playing piano from really small, and I played that up until like in high school. Then I got involved in the like the high school band, um, and I got involved in percussion. So like kind of my favorite was like mouth instruments, so like marimba, xylophone, vibraphone, glockenspiel, that kind of thing. But I also did a lot of the concert percussion, and I was also involved in the marching band in high school too, and I really like that too. Um, so that's I kind of I was doing a lot of piano and also kind of a lot of percussion. And the way it all kind of started is my percussion professor in high school. His name is Glenn Fugit. He happened to have one day I went to his office and he had this lead pan. He had a steel pan in his office. Like, huh, what is that? And I mean, I kind of was like, I think that's a steel drum. That, and probably I don't even know what my knowledge. Whatever cruise something like I kind of knew what it was, but I had never really seen one in person. And so he had brought it from like he had it and he brought it to work, and that's the first time I saw it, and I got to play around with it a little bit. And actually he told me a little bit about it, and he said, yeah, this is cool, but in a place called Trinidad, they have this competition called Panorama, and there's groups of like over 100 people. They're all playing pans like this. I mean, so that was like that implanted this little idea in my head. So I was probably what, 16, 17, the idea of Panorama. So that's kind of where it all started. And the other thing that he gave me, which was very influential, was these two. These look familiar. These
Oh,
R-Boys.
wow.
R-Boys
Yes.
CDs, which I believe you are somewhat involved in. So I'm going to ask you about that in a
Yes.
second. But
Okay.
he gave me these, and so I mean, I listened to these so much. Like I know every note of every part of every tune. I mean, I listened to these nonstop basically for 10 years.
Oh, wow. Those are classics.
Before I ever played pan, like we'll get there, but probably at least 10 years I was listening to these. Like this is my knowledge of what pan was.
Yeah.
These two CDs, and I mean, I'm very glad. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't like, cruise, all-star, Hawaiian music, plays on steel drum, like. So I'm very lucky that I the music that was on here is like it's Bugsy and
Yeah.
and Ray Holman, all this kind of stuff. Like I didn't even know what I was listening to, and I was getting an
Wow.
education, like top-notch education.
That's
So
great. That was
yeah,
so
actually,
great.
I was recently talking to Tom Miller, and he mentioned that were you involved in bringing these? Sorry, a little side. Were you involved in bringing the Ard Boys to the U.S. or helping or?
You mean me?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. Actually, yeah, that's a side story, but
Okay.
yes. Initially, our boys were brought up to the United States by Andy Narell
Okay. Okay.
to do a festival in New York.
Okay.
And after they were done, of course, Patrick Arnold was the leader at that time. So after they were done, they wanted to come out to the West Coast and do some concerts here, which was arranged. They came out here, and then we got the idea if we could arrange to have them, well, to extend their stay, and not only that, but to help them be able to come back and
Okay.
perform.
Okay.
So we arranged, we applied through my organization at the time, we were a corporation, and we applied to the immigration to have them come up for different periods of the summer. And the agreement was that since they had a skill that was not readily available in the United States, that they would teach while they were here, they would be able to teach locals.
Hmm.
And at the end of the visa, locals would be able to take their place, and
Wow.
theoretically they would no longer be needed. And
I see.
so I was involved in actually through my organization.
Okay, like getting them visas or allowing
getting
them to
them
stay
the
here.
visas to come here. And they did that for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. They come up, perform, teach, and then go back. And until Patrick returned to Trinidad, and that was the end of that. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, a little side story, but I mean, I can't overemphasize how influential those two CDs were. To my Pan journey. I mean, so that was kind of what I knew about Pan, since about high school. So like after high school, during college, I continued to kind of study percussion. And really, I really got involved in it. I mean, I was studying engineering, so I was doing engineering school, but most of my time was spent in the music building. Like, and that's like my true love has always been kind of music, and I also do other engineering stuff.
That's great.
So, and then part of what I was involved in during college times is, I don't know if you've seen drum and bugle corps around.
Yeah,
like there's
of course.
Like Santa Clara Vanguard and Blue Devils are Concord Blue Devils. Those are kind of our local ones. So I got involved in that for a couple of summers, and I'm just mentioning that because being involved in that and then seeing Panorama and all the Panorama bands, it's very similar. Like just in structure, there's all competitions, and then you have a prelim, semis, and finals. And they cut down the bands for each night, and also and each drum corps has its diehard fans. They were in there. It was their local drum corps, and then there's diehard fans. And there's always complaints about the judging, and the judges are biased. Oh, they screwed us, or there's collusion against. I mean,
nothing new.
Exactly the same. Exactly. I mean, and actually structurally too, like the drum corps. Real quickly, you start. It's over a summer, like 2-3 months over the summer, and you kind of learn a 8 to 10 minute piece, and you just drill that, and you get really, really good at it. And at the end, there's a big competition where everybody performs. So I mean, it's also very, very similar to kind of a Panorama season. So I mean, it's kind of interesting that the process that I ended up doing, much later, as it was, I already had kind of gone through that process with drum and bugle.
That's great.
So anyway, so then after when I moved out here, I went to grad school at Stanford, and I was involved in the Stanford Taiko group there, which was it was a great, kind of really great student-run Taiko group, and a lot of the players from there, kind of gone to San Jose Taiko. You must have seen San Jose Taiko around, and
yes, they're very popular.
I love San Jose Taiko. Anyway, so I mean, I've kind of was doing all this different kind of music things, and after I had started working, and I was kind of in the doldrums a little bit, like I didn't really have a musical outlet, and I had been still loving Pan this whole time, and somehow I did a web search. Like this was 2001, early. And the Chabot Panhandlers had a website, and I said, for information, contact Jim Munzenreiter at this. I emailed that email address, and if you know Jim, then it's not surprising that like no response for 3 to 4 months. Sorry. And then I think
he is busy.
he was also busy back in 2001. But yeah, sure.
Legitimately.
So, eventually I think I maybe re-emailed it, and eventually I got a response back, and he said, "Oh yeah, come check out this, we got a band here at Chabot College. Yeah, come check it out this coming Wednesday." And it's just funny that, I knew a little bit about Pan, like I knew from these CDs, and I knew a little bit about Panorama, and I went to this rehearsal, and I just was expecting, like, I didn't really expect much, I just they're going to be playing, just kind of who knows what. And I walk in, and the first note I mean, the first tune they do, Pan Progress,
Yeah.
from like the first track, like they started playing this, like
Uh-oh.
something I had been listening to for 10 years. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I know this song. I know what you're playing. I know this song. I know every part of this. Like, so anyway, so that's why like I mentioned
Yeah.
that.
Oh man.
So really, like this song is in my head. You're playing it in front of me. I cannot believe this. Like, it's really unbelievable. So
Wow.
that's
What?
so good.
Yeah. What year was that?
That was
Around
2001. So that was
2001.
late
Okay.
2001, right?
Yeah. Good.
So
24 years ago.
that's kind of the start of my real pan career, and so that's when I met Jim Rensenreiter and
Yeah.
Tom Miller and all the kind of the rest of the people in the Panhandlers. And I just want to say, like, from here on out, like everything that's happened to me with Pan, completely due to Jim Rensenreiter. I have to give him complete credit for everything I know about Pan is because of him. Everyone I've met, everyone I've performed, going to Trinidad, it's all for Jim. I mean, it's all due to him. So I mean, I feel lucky that I got to learn from him and play with the Panhandlers. I played until there wasn't Panhandlers, at least like 15, 20 years, kind of just playing in there.
Yeah.
So he and Tom Miller both, like, it's just like, amazing.
It's Jim is one of our icons. People haven't heard about Jim, but let me tell you, if they would find out what Jim has been doing with Pan on the West Coast, man.
So, like I mentioned to you, like that is an interview. Like I'm begging for you.
Yes,
you
like that one's going to take a couple hours at least.
I know, but I mean, both he and Tom were just present at the beginnings of Pan in the U.S. and I would love to hear more of their stories.
Yeah, I run into those guys back in the 90s. It's a long story.
Yes. So anyway, I owe so much to them. Yeah,
we're gonna sooner or later there's gonna be an interview or two.
Yeah. So I remember, like, when I joined, that was kind of like the largest part of the band. Like, I think there were maybe 7, 8 lead tenor players, maybe 4 or 5 double tenor, 4 or 5 double second, 4 guitars, 4 great guitar players, triple guitars, and then like maybe a tenor bass and 2 6 bass. Maybe 20, 25 piece band.
Yeah.
Just what I mean, I can't believe I walked into that, and that's where I learned to play Pan. It's just great. So I mean, a lot of those, I'm sure we know a lot of those same people.
Right.
I mean, Anna Talamo, Stephanie Jones, Don Gomes, Leroy Bolden, uncle of the great Alter Bolden.
The late.
The late. He passed last year, and sadly. But, it's just like so many people that I got to know there.
That's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I played with that band. We were very lucky. I think we recorded I recorded 3 of the CDs with them. And actually, I went and found them. So one of the CDs, of course, was this wonderful CD.
Oh, yes.
With this wonderful title track by our own.
And is the thing.
It's a great tune arranged by Tom Miller. Oh, it's great.
Yes.
And it's also featured on your wonderful album, the vocal version of it.
Yes.
It's a great tune. I love that tune.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was great to be involved in those CDs, and just thinking about all the people that we brought in as guest artists, and I got to meet through being in that band. I mean, like Ray Holman. Well, actually, I think Jim brought Bugsy out before I was in the band. But I've heard stories about that. Robert Greenwich, I played with. I mean,
perpetually,
multiple times. Duvon Stewart, Liam Teague, David Rudder, Tony Lindsay. I mean, it's amazing that I got to share
always
the stage
had the
with all
greatest guests, top-notch guests.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, that was like that's like 15 years of learning Pan. Like just so many. I just learned so much, and so I started out on double seconds, and then halfway through, Don Gomes retired, and then so I always kind of loved the triple guitars, and so like, oh, okay, let me jump into there. So then I started playing triple guitars, and I just love that. I always love the strum sections. So that's
When did you make your first trip to Panorama?
Okay, this is so right now, great segue. So I mean, I think my first trip was in 2017, and this was kind of the real, like the tail end of the Panhandlers. We were doing gigs, and it was maybe like 5, 6, 7 players, and doing gigs every so often. And
Yeah.
one of those gigs was at Ashkenaz. I can't
Yeah.
remember if you were at this or maybe at the Pacifica one, but we were doing a gig at Ashkenaz, and I remember driving up and showing up for warm up, and I walked to the stage, and Jim looked at me, "Hey, you want to go to Trinidad?" And I was like, I mean, yes, in theory, yeah, of course I want to go to Trinidad. It's like, no, like in 2 weeks, you want to go to Trinidad? Like, what are you talking about? So I kind of knew that this was the second time that he was bringing a group of his Nueva students. Jim Munzenreiter teaches at the Nueva School in Hillsborough, and he runs this great steel band program.
Yes.
And a music program.
Absolutely.
And just like great, he just turns out great players. It's amazing. So this was going to be the second time that he was bringing a group of like 10, 15 kind of mostly middle school age students in middle school and high school to Trinidad. And I knew that they were taking that trip, and I was a little bit sour about it, because I mean, I really remember by this time, it was kind of the end of the Panhandlers, and I kind of knew that I felt like, my time of playing in like steel bands, like that's always what I really love. Like I feel like this phase of my life is kind of coming to a close, and it was a little sad. It was like, okay, I think I'm fine. I did great things. I played with all these great people. I learned so much, and I was like, okay, my pan career is basically over. But and I was like, man, but I always really wanted to go to Trinidad. But it's like, I think I'm okay if I don't go to Trinidad. Like I don't kind of that dream that's been in my head since 17 years old. I think I was really kind of acceptance, I was in acceptance. And all of a sudden, this trip that I was a little bit sour, I was like, I know he's going to Trinidad. I kind of would like to go to that, but I'm not affiliated with the school. But here I was, 2 weeks later, I was in Trinidad, So every time I see Jim's wife, Debbie, I have to thank her, because I think originally she had planned to go along as a chaperone. And she decided, no, I have something else to do. I don't want to go. So they had this extra spot in a hotel and all the things. So that's how I. So every time I see Debbie, I'm like, thank you. You changed my life by not going to Trinidad. So I think it was on the way up to that Ashkenaz gig that my good friend Newton Martin, our mutual good friend, who's also like I owe so much to, like, everything that's happened for me going to Trinidad. I'm like, so he and Jim were Newton's the native Trini, and he's involved.
He's the man in the background taking care of all
like in arranging all the tours and everything. So they were driving up, and there's like, oh, we have this extra spot, and it was Newton's idea. Why don't we ask Andy? So then they asked me, and I just my mind, So 2 weeks later, I was in Trinidad after thinking I would never go, and there I was in Trinidad, and and then the thing I remember most is I'm sitting. Sorry, go ahead.
What was your preparation like? I mean, what were you told you would need on the trip? What kind of expectations did you have?
I mean, this was so whirlwind that I had no idea what to expect.
Okay.
I mean, I was very lucky because this was a very planned, kind of controlled trip. I mean, it was a group of students, so there was security and really transportation to everything, and I mean, I didn't really know what to expect or what I was just kind of along for the ride.
Okay. But did you anticipate anything? What?
I mean, the thing I was most looking forward to was, of course, like seeing a Panyard, and hearing a band live. Of course, you hear all the recordings and everything, but it's, unless you're standing in front of one or right beside one, it's just the feeling of it is, you can't. Just like any kind of live music. I mean, and just going and seeing Panorama, like, seeing the Queen's Park Savannah, just like, that's what I imagined, and there I was.
I'm going to step back a little bit. Hey, you're getting ready to go to Trinidad, or you get on a jet at SFO, I take it?
Yes.
San Francisco, okay.
Yes.
And where's your first stop?
We went through Miami. We took a red eye to Miami, and then continued on from Miami to SFO. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to Port of Spain. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. The trip from here to Miami, I suppose, is standard.
Yeah.
The trip from Miami to Trinidad, it's a little different.
It is. the accents, like when you're waiting at the gate for the trip to Port of Spain,
Yeah.
like the chatter you hear is like
Yeah.
it's a little different music you hear. A little,
Yes.
it's great, and people are a little more kind of like rowdy and kind of like excited going,
Yeah.
on the plane. Definitely,
Yeah.
yes, most
Okay.
definitely, yes,
So you're getting an early taste of what is to come.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So hey, you land at Piaco, and what's the scene like?
I mean, it was such a whirlwind. I mean, I'm trying to think of a lot of the things that we did. I mean, early on we went to the Kings and Queens competition at the Savannah. I
Hmm.
think that may have been the first night. Just kind of the giant costumes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. And then, a couple of days later, we went to kind of a panyard crawl. We saw the Starlift panyard. We saw Phase 2. We saw Silver Stars. And then we also saw Renegades,
Hmm.
which, yeah, I mean, the only preparation I did before going to I listened to all the semis kind of shows. And
Uh-huh.
I remember, listening to all the bands play. And one really stuck out because in 2017, Renegades played Good Morning. And there's this breakdown, this kind of triplet breakdown, which was really, really unusual. And
Yeah.
that was the first thing I was like, oh, I kind of really like that Renegades tune. And then like, that was the other thing, like during the pan crawl, just being in the Renegades pan yard, maybe you've seen pictures, like they have this beautiful mural on the side.
Right.
It has this green and yellow mural, and it has Jit Samaru, kind of his portrait there.
Yes.
And I just think, I was always a huge fan of the great tunes, his arrangements from the 80s and 90s. And
Yeah.
it just has such a great feel in the pan yard. I felt so
Yeah.
great, being
Was
there.
that
So
the first Spaniard you went to?
I think it was maybe the third or fourth of that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
What was
yeah.
your initial reaction? The first Spaniard you walked into?
I think, well, the first one happened to be Starlift, and I don't think they were practicing that night. So
Yeah.
that was,
Okay.
I mean, that was cool because you got to see the championship banners at 1969 and 71, Queen of the Bands and
Yeah.
Bull. I think were both Ray Holman wins with Starlift, so I got to see
Yeah.
those little signs. But I remember seeing, yeah, I mean,
So were they rehearsing at all, or just
they weren't rehearsing, but we did see Phase 2 rehearsing. They happened to be learning a new portion of a tune, so they were kind of looping one part, so that wasn't as interesting. We did
Yeah.
hear a little bit more of a full tune at Starlift, but then I think when we drove up to Renegades, the part that they were rehearsing was that triplet part that I had heard already, and that I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I know this part. So I mean, that part I kind of sneakily got a little bit of video, that you're not really supposed to take, and
Yeah.
but I mean, so that's what I remember is like really
Yeah.
hearing a band, next to it was like
Okay.
it was something special. Yeah.
Tell me about some of the smells. What are you smelling? What kind of food? What's in the air?
Corn soup. Corn soup is in the air. Um, Plenty of doubles. Oh, doubles. I love doubles. Some roti, and if you get some roti skins cooking, you smell
Yeah.
those. Some pylori. I love pylori. So I mean, there's all the food stands along the savannah. I mean, that's kind of a lot of fried food. You smell a lot of delicious fried food.
Yes.
That's a lot
Yes.
what I smell. And there's always a nice stag and carob around. So
Nice.
that's what I
Nice.
think of when I
Nice.
think of Trinidad.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, so that was my I was just there for about a week, kind of week and a half, and the other thing that really made an impression on me, there were two things actually, and I have to credit Newton, our friend Newton, with that as well. The other thing that he kind of was telling me about some of the things that we're going to do, and of course, I mean, my main thing was like panorama. Like I'm a pan player. That's going to be my highlight. I want to see other things too, because I have been reading a lot, and like I've been consuming Lord Kitchener tunes for the past decade, and like all the place names, and I know so much about a place that I've never been, just because of
the
listening
names in the songs.
yeah. But the one thing that he told me is like, oh, my favorite thing is this thing called a juve. It's Monday morning. You get up at 4 a.m. before and you go out on the street and you put all this mud and paint on you, and you dance behind a music truck, and you drink, and it's great. And I'm like, that's okay. I understand you like that, but that's your favorite part. There's panorama. There's there's parades and like all these crazy costumes, but that's your favorite. Oh, okay. Well, okay, I'll go check that out. And of course, like I went and did it. I was like, now that's basically my favorite part. That and Panorama, like, I mean, it's really hard to describe, but I mean, Juve morning, like, you know, playing Juve, it's just like, it's something great about it. So
Yeah,
that's
the
another
energy
thing.
is the energy is
Yeah.
palpable.
I mean, just
Yeah.
like you know, you see the sun come up and it's like, there's this cleansing kind
Yeah.
of just like in this group of all the people that you're dancing with, and you know, you're always looking out for your friends, and it's wonderful. So that's one thing that I was a little bit told about before going. And I mean,
Yeah.
and doesn't sound great, but you know, it is great. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't really, you know, that's kind of the, you know, that's in the Monday morning. And of course there's throughout Monday and Tuesday, they have the plain mass and like people wear kind of crazy costumes and next to nothing. And they're, you know,
Yeah.
just dancing throughout the whole the whole day, the whole street. Like that's a lot for me. I don't play mass, but I love playing Juve. It's great.
Yeah.
And the other great thing, we got to go up. So Newton's family kind of was based in Paramin, up in kind of the hills of Paramin, a little.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And that's where the Blue Devils, kind of the jab,
Yeah.
that kind of tradition kind of originated. So that on Monday night that's like we went up to Paramin and saw the Blue Devils,
Okay.
and they have a competition, you know, between the multiple Blue Devils bands, and that was really, really wonderful too. So that's the other thing that really sticks out. It's really unusual.
Cool.
Yeah. So from going there, I mean, like that was great, and I mean, I just couldn't believe it that it, you know, this place that I had been thinking about my whole life was a real place, and it was way better than I expected, and it's just like all the people, I just were just wonderful, and it was great. So
and you were there for how long? That initial visit?
That was maybe a week and a half.
A week and a half.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you come to the end of the whole festival season, and how was it feeling? You're getting ready to go back?
I mean, it was it's just such a whirlwind. I mean, I keep saying that, but it was just like I didn't know what to expect, and I was just kind of overblown. But yeah, it was great. We actually came back Tuesday, which is kind of funny because Tuesday is kind of the crescendo for most people.
Yeah.
Like that's when they
that's
play
right.
best.
Yeah.
And because Ash Wednesday is the next day, and that's when they
right.
Stop the party now. You know, now go to church and stop partying. But there's still, I found out later, there's plenty of parties the rest of the week. But
yes,
you know, but that's, but it was actually, that's for many years, like it was actually easier to get planes back on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that's
yes.
a lot of times I would come back on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But this coming year, next week, I'll be there. I'm coming back a week after. But
so there's another observation when you're coming back.
Yes.
You take the plane from Trinidad to Miami, and immediately the energy changes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, on the plane to Miami, it's nice because you still see some wings, some feather wings, like some ladies have put into the you know, people are still excited, and you know, they're a little down that it's over and going back home, but then you walk into the concourse at Miami, and it's just like, boom, oh, regular life. Oh, it's all over. Oh, it's just regular people just like trying to get back to work and back, like, yeah, carnival's over.
yes. I like observing those energies. You know, it's parting is such sweet sorrow.
Yeah.
Now, so let's talk about that year you went down there to perform with Renegades.
Okay. So that was in 2017. In, you know, kind of, this is February 2017. So later that year, and probably in like October 17.
Yeah.
The job that I'd been working in a job for 8 to 10 years, and there was a huge reorganization and kind of a cancellation of a project, and just this whole organization got laid off. So I lost my job.
Yeah.
And I just it was very demoralizing just because, you know, and also that was like 42, 43. So this was like, there was a nice midlife crisis kind of maybe caused or just kind of coinciding or who knows. And I remember the day before my last day, I was kind of sitting at the piano, and all of a sudden an idea is like, maybe I could go try to play. Like I have this opportunity. Like I should go find another job, but this was in October, November. And you know, the next Panorama was coming like in in a couple months, a month or two. And I just I just had that idea, and then I thought and talked to Newton. It's like, do you think that maybe? And then I went to the boss, my wife, my best, which I also owe everything to, my wonderful wife. Honey, can I not look for a job for a couple months, and can I go down to Trinidad for 5 weeks? And and at that time, I guess we have 2 sons, and they were kind of middle school, high school or age, and I just can I go, kind of lose my mind in Trinidad for 5 weeks? And she said yes, and I just said, so I owe everything to that. So yeah, a month later, I was flying back, like early January. So usually with the bands, I mean, there are some, Carnival is in mid-February, so there are some bands and some players that come in a week or two before finals and kind of, learn the tune real quick. And, and a lot of bands need players, and they welcome that. And they have crack shot players come in. But I just I've been playing a long time, but I'm not a crack shot like that. I need time to if you give me time, you tell me what to play and give me time, I will be able to play it, but not like, oh, here, we're going to play this tomorrow, learn this. This is not my strength. But I also that wasn't really the point of it. If I was going to do it, I wanted the full experience of here. I wanted to learn the tune from the start and kind of practice every night. It wasn't, I'll get it. But so really normally still most bands start practice on January 1st, the beginning of the year, start practice. And you practice every night. It's usually starting 8 to 9 o'clock. Maybe practice 3-4 hours a night. So that's every night, through January and through most of February. And I maybe only 1 or 2 nights off in that time. But most bands will start kind of, especially if it's a normal kind of mid-February season, they'll start early January. So I got there maybe about a week into the season.
Yeah.
And so I will mention that. So by the way, I mean, when I got there, this is another, I have to thank Mr. Jim Munzenreiter. So I was trying to figure out where I should stay in this adventure. And Jim had called his friend, Ray Holman, without my knowing, and kind of suggested, this guy, Andy's he's a good guy. Why don't you you have this, if you have an extra room, maybe you can let him stay with you. Yeah. So I got to stay with the great hero of the nation, Ray Holman, during this adventure, which
couldn't have picked a better host.
I mean, anyway, it's unbelievable. So yeah, I was staying by Uncle Ray in Woodbrook, and it was just unbelievable. So, and just thinking about the first night going to the pan yard and showing up to practice, I will say that anyone wanting to go to trying to go play in a band, if you can ask Ray Holman to escort you and present you to the band, saying, here's a player, and maybe you should consider letting him play with you, do that.
Good luck.
So anyway, I'm joking, but it was nice that he brought me to the yard and he got to chat with Duvon. It was like, oh, this is Andy. I had met Duvon because Jim had brought Duvon to play with the Nueva School probably 3-4 years before. Yeah, I was pretty shy. I mean, I think I quickly met him, but he definitely would not have remembered me. Duvon, but anyway, so yeah, that first. I mean, there's a couple of things that happened that first day. Yeah, so I got in front of a set of triples, and I got there, and I started playing a little bit. I was like, what is this note layout? I still don't even know what the note layout is. That's one of my projects for this time when I go there. I'm going to take a video. It's what were these notes? Because they're not I've been playing the triple guitars that I have for, it's kind of the standardized American, whatever we usually see. I mean, I had no idea what it wasn't just the same. It wasn't just rotated. It was different notes were on different. I don't even know what they were. So this woman, Sammy, shout out to Sammy. She was tasked with teach Andy, start teaching him the tune. And she's like, okay, this, but and I'm just just poking at notes, what, and she looked at me and was like, this is the first time you play in pan? And I had to tell her, no, I've been playing about 20 years, but I had to take that, eat that big plate of curls. Like, I'll take that. I'm like, no, but I'll need a couple minutes to figure out where these notes are. and then later that, right after that, another woman in the guitar section, Sasha, shout out Sasha. I have a clear picture of her. She got a roll of masking tape, and she had these nice long nails, and she got the masking tape. She put it on the drum. She got her Sharpie A, like as if I was like a elementary school student, like a total beginner. She put all the note names on my drum. I just had to sit and watch her do that and just take that too. So that was my first night in the pan yard. Like, I can't believe I didn't get dropped that like within the first 30 minutes. But anyway, so I mean, yeah. So I mean, and later that night, I got a couple of it, and the other just clear memory I had is just like sitting, just playing these strums and just looking around, like the whole band is playing. I'm in the middle of this band, and just like the sound is unbelievable. Like, there's one thing to be in front of a band, but of course, being inside a band,
inside of it, yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, I started, and it took about they at that point when I got there, they knew like the first chorus and like maybe the first variation. So I kind of caught up as we were slowly learning new music, and I caught up in about a week or so.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, as the new music came in and new sections, I was learning currently.
One slight interruption. What tune were you working on?
We were working on Year for Love.
Year for Love.
Yeah. So this was in 2018, the voice tune Year for Love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so a couple of things that might be interesting. So the way that we're learning, there's a couple of things that I remember about learning the tune, and just the way that notes were taught. Because I remember when the first night I got there, someone asked me, "Oh, do you want the sheet music? We can get you sheet music." And I'm like, although that, in the U.S. most of the tunes you always have sheet music. Most people can read music, and it's just an easier way to learn the music. You want to get off that music as soon as possible, right? Like, because you got to look, you got to play the drum. But right. They'd ask me, I was like, no, I want to do this like just like everyone else. I just want to learn it by rote. I'm here to do it Trini style. I want the whole experience. So I remember there was one thing that I remember. It was one of the variations, like there was kind of a set of 4 licks that the kind of the mid pans played, and I had learned that one night, and it's the kind of it was a little tricky. Like while we were playing it, and that night it's like, okay, I kind of got this. But then the next day is like, how did that go? I didn't write anything down. I didn't do anything. I didn't record it. It's like, I should be able to learn that. And the next day I couldn't remember like a couple of the rhythms, or it's like, I don't know. So, that night I got to rehearsal, and I remembered there was no one else from my section there, but I remember there was in the 4-pan section, I remember from the night before, I think they have that line. So I remember going to Cuddy, one of the longtime 4-pan players. Can you play that lick? And you played it for me. Oh, okay. That's what it is. So that I was kind of reminded of that. So that's kind of one example where, you just teach other people licks, right? And so actually, and I remember that lick that I got from him. A couple of weeks later, there was another player that was moving from the tenor pan to the quad plan, and he was trying to learn that part. And I remember we were on break, and he kind of turned and was like, "Hey, what's that part?" And I kind of played it a little bit, and he learned it from me. So I mean, it's just kind of it's just kind of an example of it's like you're just what's that part? What's that? Everyone's teaching each other parts, or like when a new part's coming along, usually it was taught to the section leader, or maybe like one time Duvon just kind of, whoever was there just kind of taught it to them. And like that happened to me a couple of times, like, okay, it's this drum. And then I taught the rest of the section just because I happened to be standing there when I taught it. So that's how a lot of the music happens. So,
wow.
Yeah. And and there was one interesting part that right before prelims, I think we had a certain strum. So that was our strum in most of the tune. Yeah. And it was fine. It was a little plotting. I was like, okay. And all of a sudden, like a day or two before prelims, we were playing, and I just like, what's going on? Something's what, like, something's going on with the strums. And so half the people, like, slowly, they change the strum to just all upbeats, like, cha, 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 like, and it just kind of like spread kind of communally.
Yeah.
And like, while we were playing, like, oh, it wasn't like, oh, passing out new sheet music, or, okay, now everyone, let's practice that. You know, it was just like, okay, all you strum players, all you 30 players, not that, change the strum to this. Like,
Change the strum.
and just like, took about 5 to 10 seconds. Everyone changed the gears, like, okay. And then just like, then that was the new strum. So like, that was 2 days before prelim. So, I mean, that's, you know, that's what happens when you're in a nice, great pan band like that, you know, steel band. You know. So I think that just little things like those are the things I remember about kind of learning how you learn a tune. Like
yeah. How late were your sessions? How late were you going?
Usually like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. They tried, like, I will say, like, Renegades is and continues to be a very well run, kind of organized organization. You know, they really take it to heart. Like, they don't like the late night practices. They really just, that wasn't a thing and doesn't really seem to be a thing. Like, I hear a lot of some other bands like, oh, we were up until 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And just like, okay, but how much retention? I mean, you can't make the players tired like that. So, and yeah, I mean, everyone has, you know, it was okay for me because I just had to sleep in, and I just was hanging out at Uncle Ray's house. So, but everyone else had jobs. So, like, you know, everyone else is getting their kids out and going to school, and you can't. So it was like 9 to about 1 o'clock. Most nights. Yeah.
So how was the build up as you approach preliminaries?
Yeah, that was, so going up to preliminaries, I mean, so prelims are held in the yard. Maybe people don't know that. So yeah, each band just plays in their yard, and there's kind of a pan crawl, especially it's more and more these days. But the judges will go, they spread it out over, because they have different sections of Trinidad and Tobago. So they kind of all the town bands. There's 7 town bands, like All Stars, Despers, Silver Stars, Renegades, Phase 2, Starlift, and even this one, Invaders. So those are all on one night, and then the set of judges will they go and they sit down at the table in front of the band, and they judge, and then they get carted to the next one. So and there's a lot of, you know, thousands of people kind of following them. And so that's kind of an event. And other nights they do the South bands, and then they do the kind of the I guess that would be the central bands, like Supernovas and Exodus, and also then they go to Tobago, and they do. There's a couple of Tobago bands as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was pretty. That was one thing, and that was exciting. But I remember, and then the semifinals are about a week after that. So that was just kind of that's a quick turnaround. They didn't really change much. Like, I think actually the leader, the captain, I was listening to the semis broadcast last night, and she was actually mentioning that usually they don't change stuff between prelims and semis, just because it's only a week, and the judging, like the different yards sound so different. So they take the judges' comments to heart, but they don't really like change everything. Let's wait until semis, when everyone's on the playing field, see where our placements are, see what we need to fix, if we need to add anything. So then there's 2 weeks after that until finals, and that's when there's new endings and new things changing. Or, you know, that's usually what happens. So semifinals is that just happened yesterday, and I was watching the broadcast, and it brought back a lot of great memories. I mean, the semis is a party in the Savannah. I mean, it's it's huge. I mean, just there's they call it the drag, and it's you know, it's you know, the grandstand is originally kind of it used to be the Queens Park Savannah used to be, the grandstand for it used to be a horse racing track. So it's kind of and so there's a big lane in the middle, and then what they call the drag is kind of the straight of the horse racing track. So all the bands kind of camp out near in the Savannah, and then they kind of push on. So as they kind of line up, and as one band is on stage, another band is kind of ready to be there, and then another band is a little bit behind them. So everyone's kind of pipelined up there, and there's just thousands of people. Just they keep them out of the bands. It used to be kind of more that people would just kind of mingle in the bands and while they're playing, but they're kind of kept out these days. Still, it's just, you're just trying to push and get to the stage just through these just thousands of people, and the the grandstand is like there's a big main grandstand, and then there's kind of a north stand, and they almost look like greater than less stand signs. It has a certain shape, and and the north stands are just packed with people, and there's a huge party in the north stands, and because the grandstand is like that's where the bands face, but it's pretty like it's kind of a little more expensive, and that's where kind of the fancy people are. They're just like the golf clappy people, like that's what they say. But the north stands are. There's huge engine rooms and rhythm sections with huge drums, like multiple rhythm sections, and in between bands, they're just play so loud, and then they're like, oh, okay, a band's playing. Okay, stop, and then the band's play, and as soon as the band stop, just like they're like, oh, okay, let's let the bands play, during our North Stand concert. I mean, it's wild. But so that's the one thing that I remember. That's the I'm not sure if they do it this year, but traditionally, because the Renegades Panyard is 4 or 5 blocks, probably it's a 15-20 minute walk away from the savannah, and a lot of the bands. I'm not sure which other bands kind of do that, but Renegades would push day of, like the semifinals is on Sunday, so it'd meet kind of at 3 o'clock, push on, and kind of get closer to there, see all the crowd, and basically get in line and go on stage, and so it was basically you're going from the Panyard, you're pushing, and then you start warming up, and you play the tune a little, kind of warm up speed, and you push a little closer, you speed up a little bit, push a little closer, speed up a little bit, you're right on stage, and you're like, here we go, and then you're on, and then you play. I mean, it's pretty great. So I remember that these days, I remember that year in finals, they actually pushed all the pans. I think most bands do this now. They push all the pans, they stage them the night before.
Yeah.
Definitely for finals. I'm not sure if anyone does it for semis.
So
they and I think that it does kind of make sense. I mean, on one hand, it was pretty exciting to kind of push, like, here we go, we're pushing, we're going to the stage, and we're going to go right to the stage, and we're going to go push. But those things are heavy, and even though it was close, it was just chaotic, and and it was a little the players didn't really feel settled, and it was really exciting. But I think that I'm not sure if I'll ask, and I'm not sure if they do that. But that was, and some of the other bands may do that. But I remember. The one thing I remember about the semis performance, I was just jacked. I was so excited. Just thinking again about, okay, a year ago, I was, a year ago plus 2 weeks, I was convinced I would never go to Trinidad, never go to Port of Spain. But a year ago, minus 2 weeks, I was in the grandstands for the first time under the grandstands, with my torn ticket, hearing the echoes of a band on, playing, and just bawling my eyes out, just like, I cannot believe I'm here. And then 1 year later, I'm on stage playing with Renegades. Like, it's unbelievable. So I was just like, this is amazing. And then, the energy is great, and everyone's amped up and just performing. And I remember, I was just, play. And I played so badly. Like, I fell out of all the runs, and I was just losing notes all over the place. Like, what's going on? I really played badly.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been doing this a long time. I know when I suck, and when I know when I'm good. Boy, I didn't expect that, because I'm pretty I didn't know where the notes were by this time. No. But I was really, and I remember talking to another, shout out to Critchlow, my great friend, the section leader, longtime section leader of the triple guitars. And I remember talking to him after, which maybe wasn't a great idea, talking to the section leader who would be making the decision whether you would be playing on finals in 2 weeks. I told him, I played terribly. I really screwed up so much during that performance. I just can't believe, I shouldn't have told him that. He probably wouldn't. Anyway, he probably did know. He probably could hear me, but no. But I remember talking to him about that. I'm really surprised that I really, and I remember his advice to me is let the front line, the front line is the players in front, that get all the TV time and all the audience time, and they're just just watching them play, and they're great. It's like, let the front line do what they do.
Yeah.
You play, you do what you do. Like, plus I was buried in the middle of the band. No one's seeing me anyway. So I could have standed like a board, and it didn't matter. But I mean, that was actually great advice. Because it's true. Like I tried to do things that I wasn't, used to doing. I overplayed. I tried to overperform, and I blew it. So So that was my memory of semifinals performance.
So on the semis,
yeah.
What was Renegade's placement? What were the points? What?
I'm trying to remember the spread. I remember that Renegades did end up first after prelims by maybe 2-3 points. So it was pretty close.
And the semis?
And semis, it was the gap widened up a little more. Like, I want to say it was like 4 or 5 points.
Yeah.
So it was quite a bit. I mean, that was pretty exciting in the Panyard. So, and Renegades is close enough. I think a lot of the bands, after semis or after they go, you just push all your racks back to the Panyards. And Renegades, like, we got back to the Panyard, and you sit there and you relax, and you start the lime, and you wait for results, and they put it on the speakers, and that was very exciting. I think, did I post that? I did have a video of the announcement of the semis win, and that was pretty exciting.
So for the finals, you were expecting a victory because of your.
I mean, based on that, I mean, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we were kind of expecting it. I mean, it did feel very special. I mean, I know that you talked to Devon in one of your earlier interviews. And I believe he talked about that. I know he's talked about that year, at least if not with you, then I think he did kind of there was a nice documentary about that year for 11. He talks about like one of his friends or one of the people from the neighborhood kind of was killed. A victim of, got killed like right before that. Yeah. And I think that kind of informed a lot about his, choosing this tune, and a lot of the things, like he put some kind of, a lot of the things that the quotes and kind of the parts that he put into it. I mean, I don't know. I remember kind of even before semis, like I wasn't that surprised that we were ahead after prelims.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? I at this point, I think everyone thinks that they're going to win. I mean, you should think that you're going to win. So
yeah.
I mean, all the players, like we just like, you think you're going to win, so you're going to.
Yeah.
So I mean, we were confident, definitely, and going up to that, I mean, it was just like some things were changing. You kind of added a new ending, kind of added some new kind of tweaks here and there, a little sweetener.
Yeah.
But and then the draw for finals, we drew first position, so we played first, which was a rough place to play.
That's tough to
that's
to
rough.
survive that.
Yes. So, but the mantra was play first, stay first. That's what they always said. So that's what we went into it with. And I actually, just jumping straight up to finals. I mean, I did earn a spot in the they kind of made the final cuts in the last week. And it kind of actually going up to that last week, I mean, we can talk about that maybe in a bit. There were a lot of kind of new foreign players coming in. I mean, I was also a foreign player, but there was only a small handful that had been there kind of since early on. And there was a large group like from Ebony, a band in UK, and some other places kind of came in. There was a lot of places that kind of knew Javon or kind of was affiliated with the band or kind of had been coming for a while. So there were a lot of new players coming from the past in the week or two before that. But I forget why I brought that up. But anyway, so we were going first, but the thing I remember about the performance, I remember taking to heart the advice to just play, like whatever. Yes. We've been playing this thing for a month and a half every night, like 1 million times. Just do that, and we'll be fine. You'll be fine. And I just remember it was very businesslike, very clinical. Part of that was pushing up on stage, and the crowd was like, that's early on. Like with finals goes for about 3 to 4 hours, and talking about how raucous semis are, finals is a lot more subdued because the prices are a lot more expensive. Usually, like the drag still has thousands and thousands of people, but
Yeah.
it's not as raucous as semifinals. Like the North Stands are kind of like there's no rhythm sections in the North Stands. Like those are just kind of cheap. But I just remember it wasn't like this electric energy and just like, here we go, we're just going to explode. I was very calm and just kind of like, we were all focused and we just kind of went up there and it's like, okay, Renegades going on first. And there's almost golf claps,
Yeah.
from this kind of audience, kind of so-so audience.
Yeah.
And then we played and it felt great. And then, more golf claps from the audience and we're like, okay, we're done. So then we pushed off and we pushed back to the yard. And since we had been first, like we had to wait 3 or 4 hours before results. So, I mean, the lime started early and we were just like, okay, here we go. Let's just wait. Kind of listening to other, like no one really cared about the other bands. We just wait. Yeah. And then ended up I think the spread it was like an 8-point spread. I mean, it was, there wasn't much question that year, especially going first. And there was 8 points between Renegades and the second. And then the rest of the 8 bands were bunched up within another 8 and 9 points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, there was a big group and then.
That's a big gap.
It was a huge gap. So, yeah, there wasn't much denying that. Yeah, it was. I will say, I mean, there's something that I've thought a lot about. Being a visitor. I mean, I definitely. It sounds dumb to say. Well, I mean, actually, here. Well, I mean, sorry. This is a little proof. So it's a little medal from and that is a Year for Love. Rangefinder. So this is the proof of the medal. I mean, it's unbelievable experience to be part of it, but I think a lot of it was because I was doing it in my mid 40s. Yeah. And I wasn't in my 20s. Like how much I got out of it. I knew that, I mean, if I'm just trying to imagine if I had done this in my 20s, because I was involved in a similar activity, like in drum corps. Like I was really, really into it. And it was all about, I want to play in finals. I want to win. I just like, that's going to be that's what I'm driving for. If I could win, that would be the most amazing thing that could happen. But to tell you the truth, like winning, going there, playing in a band and doing all the things that I did, winning Panorama is so ridiculous that my first time I just kind of bounced into this band and I just boom, oh here, they won that year. Yeah. Just like it's too ridiculous. Like that is like probably the 6th or 7th most meaningful thing that happened to me over the trip. Like, I can't really take much credit or kind of get that much satisfaction of it. Yeah. What I got a lot of satisfaction from is, I mean, the history of Renegades, like, they're in the Jet Samurai years, they had just unprecedented success for like, 9 titles in 18 seasons or something like that. Yeah. Just in the 80s and 90s, they just win. Every other year, basically they won. And then they won the hat trick, which they still talk about, which they're trying to do again this year. In 95, 96, 97, they won 3 in a row, which has never been done since or before. And so since 97, they did not win. And I mean, this is 2018. They didn't win for 20 years after that. And I mean, that's occasionally I would talk to, like, especially near the end when it looked like we're probably going to win. Like occasionally I would talk to some of the old timers, like who had been playing since those times. Like, boy, if I jumped in a time machine and, back to 97 after you just won this hat trick, it's like, hey, congratulations, enjoyed this because you are not going to sniff victory for 20 more years after this. Like, can you imagine how quickly I would have gotten beat up and just like tossed in the dry river? Like they would never find me. They're like, you get out of here. You're crazy. What are you talking about? I mean, unimaginable, right? I mean, Jet Samurai kind of, I think he got sick and, and stopped. He wasn't able to range anymore. And there's a lot of anything can happen. Nobody knows what tomorrow brings, right? I mean, it's pretty amazing. So that's why I say, like, getting to know a lot of the people who had played in those times and had been playing for those 20 years, having sniffed that kind of like dominant victory. Like they were the Patriots. They were, I don't know. They were win, and then just like nothing. So just being, I mean, I remember like seeing that win and the night of like everyone celebrating. I felt like more of an observer. You know, of course I was like,
Yeah.
I'm so glad I was part of this, but I was such a small part of it. And I couldn't, like, it meant so much more to all the other people that were there, you know,
Yeah.
all the longtime players. And that's what I got the most out of it. And I think it's just because I was 43 and not
Yeah.
23.
Okay. Man, this has been good, Andy. So we ran on the dot 1 hour, man. This is
Oh,
good.
yeah. I didn't think I
So
would be able to.
anything else you'd like to add for the benefit of anybody who might be thinking of going down there to enjoy the panorama?
Oh, I mean, definitely do it. I mean, it's, yeah, if it's something they, you know, I had been dreaming about it my whole life. And, you know, I kind of, you know, after 20 years, I did it. And very improbably, you know, I went and played. I mean, so since then, I mean, after that, I haven't been back to play, but I've been back to every year since.
Yeah.
And I just because I had to go get another real job again. So I wasn't able to take so much time off, but you know, I would take like a week or two off and just go play. And I mean, and even that, I mean, it's, of course I would love to play, but just being there and being part of the band and seeing my friends and being the section and pushing, I get to push the racks up to the savannah. I get to push the racks onto stage and, you know, dance and pull the rack and push them back to the yard and then line afterwards and accelerate, you know, celebrate more wins since then.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Excellent.
Yeah. You know, the only other things that I did, I know on your previous interviews you've asked for a couple some top whatever lists. So I prepared a couple top lists.
Yes, I usually ask people your top. Yes, your top 5 that you listen to, or people who are 5 bandmen who impress you.
Oh, okay. I have a couple lists. I'll just run through real quick.
Okay.
Okay. So probably my most influential pan players, kind of just favorite pan players that I really love listening to, or kind of have, you know, just really meant so much to me. So first, no really order. I mean, one is Robert Greenwich.
Yeah.
I just been so lucky because Jim has brought him to play
so many times. Yeah,
I think 5 times I've been able to play with him. I mean, I just
always
remember
great
being next to him and just hearing him play. Like, what are you? How are you? You can make a pan sound like that. I mean, that was the really first. I'd been playing for 10 years, and all of a sudden, like, oh, pan can be really sweet. Like, I need to fix like how I play pan. Like, I mean, so that was really amazing. I mean, and like his Just the Two of Us solo, just for anyone, hopefully everyone knows that solo. I mean, but honestly, I didn't really, of course, everyone knows that tune. If you only know the radio edit of that tune, you know, don't know there's pan in that, find the album version.
Yeah.
The best pan solo ever recorded, in my opinion. Just perfect. Just the best. So, and of course, like his From the Heart solo, like great tune, like, you know, so he's one. Another great player that I learned so much from, Ray Holman, of course, just, you know, one of the, just hearing him solo and, you know, improvise and just, you know, just like Robert Greenwich, just being able to play so like double second solo, just like you're one player is playing all this, like like, how are you doing that? You're playing all the chords, comping, and the melody, and no notes are sticking out, and just okay. So another one, of course, Tom Miller. I mean, I learned so much from him, and of course, and him and Jim Munzenrider. I mean, and both him and not only their pan playing, but they're drumming too. I feel so lucky that I just great drummers. Oh God, I'm just so lucky. And of course, I have to say my favorite pan player. I hope if she's listening, my girl Stacy Doughlin, in the Renegades cello section. I was I played behind her, and when I played, I learned so much from her. Just like the way I played, the way you approached a panorama tune, the way you move, the way I learned so much from her. It's just, so she's one of the people I'm so thankful. So all those people for pan. So I have a couple, I'll just run through a couple of okay. So, you know, for pan, so arrangers, my favorite arrangers, like pan arrangers. One, Beverly Griffith from old Desperados days.
Yes.
which great. I mean, if you look at, there's a couple old tunes from old Desper's LPs from the 60s,
Yeah.
like My Pussin'. There's a version of Hold On to Your Man and of Melda.
Mhm.
Unbelievable. Like from like early days of Panorama, and like you'd think that, oh, the pans were kind of, they sound kind of like plinky and
Yeah.
primitive a little bit, but it was so creative. The
Yeah.
arrangements were extremely creative, even on this early. Like I'm just amazed. And so of course, arrangers, of course, Ray Holman,
Yeah.
the original kind of invented, the own tune, Pan on the Move. Great arranger. Robert Greenwich, great arranger. Bugsy Sharp, great.
Yeah.
Just he did a lot of those tunes on those Arbor CDs.
Oh
Great.
yes. Yeah.
Jit Samaru, of course, I love all those old tunes. And of course, I have to say Duvon Stewart.
Of course. I kept waiting.
Oh my gosh. You imagine if he's listening to this and I didn't mention his, I would get kicked out of the yard. And and also
You said the best for last.
Yeah, and of course Tom and Jim, like I play so many of their arrangements, and being able to play arrangements and see how they're how the strum pans are put together in voice.
Yeah,
I learned so much from them. So
nice.
Panorama tunes, Bees Melody. I love Bees Melody.
Yeah,
I like the mid pans, Mystery Band, Pan Rising, Bugsy tune, and these are all pan tunes that I've kind of learned and kind of played. Which are really good. With Pan Rising, it's just amazing. Like there's only like 3 things happening in that tune. There's a bass line, and there's like 2 lines counterpoint. And like most of the tune, there's no strum. There's just seeing how it's put together. Like how does this sound so full and complicated, and there's barely anything happening? Anyway, genius. And then of course, musical volcano is great. That was, I think, the first pan tune I ever learned. And then Year for Love. Of course, I have to say Year for Love is on the top. And then for Calypsonians, I have to say, of course, Lord Kitchener and Mighty Sparrow. I mean, and to that group, I have to add the great Harry Best as part of that. I don't know if you count yourself as a Calypsonian, but I have to say, I've told you this, that I remember in one of the gigs, I heard your side. I heard you perform Night Nurse. And that was the first time I ever heard that tune. Boy, that's a great tune. He's like, Perry sings it so great. I love this tune. And later I found out, then I later found the original version. I forget who's the original singer of that tune.
Gregory Isaacs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that original tune and the way he sang, like, that's a great tune, but I have to say that I really prefer Uncle Harry's version of that tune.
Come on.
So anyway, I have to make sure that you get your flowers in there too.
Okay. Thank you. Well, man, Andy, this has been so much fun. I knew this was going to be good.
Thank you so much.
And it's going to be fun.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I mean, I hope all these names that I've listed, it's amazing that I've, this kind of late life transformation that all of a sudden to go from not thinking I would never go to Trinidad to now I walk into the Renegades pan yard and 100 people greet me by name.
That's
it's
right.
It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. And
you're leaving here?
I'm leaving.
You on your way? When are you leaving?
Next Friday I'm leaving.
Next Friday?
Yeah.
You're back for another Panorama.
First stop is in the pan yard, and I gotta see all my friends.
Yeah. Nice.
I have so many people to thank for that. So I'm so thankful. That's great.
All right. Well, Andy, thank you so much, man, for doing this.
Thank you.
I knew this was going to be fun, and it is. So maybe when you come back, we'll talk about the 3-peat.
We'll see. Time will tell. No one knows what tomorrow brings. We'll find out.
I know. Okay,
all right,
man.
Harry. Great to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes. The Pan Players podcast is brought to you courtesy of Kakesa Pan Emporium, where you'll find pan products you never knew you needed. Check them out at kakesa.com and get a free Pan Players podcast keychain with your next purchase. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And turn on the notification bell so you know when we release the next video. Until then, Kute Cheo.